Joe Biden got the most votes of any presidential candidate in U.S. history. Despite the pandemic, more Americans voted in this election than any previous one. It was a record turnout for the U.S., but still pretty low overall at 67%. Hey guys, I'm Dina, and we're going to take a quick look at 6 reasons why millions of people faced barriers from participating in this year's election.
I'm feeling just overall exhausted from this process.
Voter suppression is definitely real.
Why is it so hard to vote in America?
Joe Biden won millions more votes than Donald Trump, but thanks to the Electoral College, we still could have had a repeat of 2016, when Trump became president despite losing the popular vote by millions back then too. 48 states award all their Electoral College votes to whoever wins their popular vote, which means there isn't much incentive for people to vote if they live where their preferred party usually loses. For example, Joe Biden won California, which went to the Democrats as it has for the last 28 years. So it was pretty certain beforehand that all of California's Electoral College votes would go to Biden, which probably discouraged some Republicans from bothering to even take part. The same is true for Democratic voters in reliably Republican states like South Carolina. The COVID-19 pandemic forced many states to allow extended early voting and voting by mail, which may have actually boosted turnout. But not everyone had that convenience.
We live in a system in which 50 states run their election systems in dramatically different ways, and so the picture looks different depending on where you are.
Some states didn't allow early in-person voting, while others had weeks of it. Some expanded voting by mail because of the pandemic, while in other states, fear of contracting COVID-19 wasn't enough to get you a mail-in ballot. States even differ on when they start counting different types of ballots. And that's partly why we saw Trump supporters the night after the election protesting for the counting to stop in one state and to continue in another. A more centralized voting system would go a long way in reducing confusion and making it easier for people to vote. As usual, people of color found it especially hard to vote in 2020, and that's not by accident. In Texas, hundreds of polling sites were closed by Republican incumbents in areas where Black and Latino populations have been growing. And those demographics are usually more likely to vote Democratic. Letting local elected officials run elections allows politicians to make the rules that benefit them and their party. Rules like strict voter ID laws or poll times that disproportionately affect certain groups of people.
It's that low-income voter who says, you know what, I don't have a driver's license because I can't afford a car, and then go sit on a long line at a government agency to get a state-issued ID just so I can vote.
And it's become much easier to put in rules like this since the Supreme Court ruling in 2013. The 1965 Voting Rights Act forced certain states and counties with a history of voter suppression to get approval from the Justice Department anytime they wanted to make a change to voting rules. Kristen says that usually meant looking at any proposed changes from this point of view.
Is this a change that will worsen the position of voters of color? And it helped to block and deter hundreds of discriminatory voting changes.
But in the 2013 case, Shelby versus Holder, the Supreme Court's Republican-appointed majority ruled to eliminate that part of the Voting Rights Act.
And so since that 2013 Supreme Court ruling, we've literally seen just the floodgates of voter suppression open up across the country because it's open season.
Dozens of strict voter ID laws were passed, hundreds of polling locations were closed across the country, and millions of people were illegitimately purged from voter rolls.
The impact of the 2013 Supreme Court ruling cannot be undermined. It really was a blow to democracy.
Everything we've mentioned affects Americans who are eligible to vote, but millions are denied that right altogether. 4.6 million Americans who live in U.S. territories and Washington, D.C. get no representation in Congress, although DC residents do get to vote for the president. Another 5 million Americans can't vote at all because many states strip that right from people with a criminal record. Because Black people and other people of color are incarcerated at higher rates, their communities are disproportionately disenfranchised by these laws.
These are laws that have racist origins. These are laws that sadly still sit on the books in certain states and that were adopted precisely for the purpose of disenfranchising Black people in our country. They're a stain on democracy.
Many countries hold their elections on weekends or national holidays. In the US, general elections are held on a Tuesday, the middle of the work week. It's all because in 1845, Congress decided Tuesday was the easiest day for people to travel by horse and buggy to vote. Wouldn't it be nice if Congress thought about what's more relevant and convenient in 2020?
It's a system where you literally have to go out and say, am I going to go to work and get that 7 hours of work in that I need to keep food on the table, or wait in this line to vote?
We asked Kristen what she'd do to make voting easier next time.
I would eliminate and scrap unnecessary rules. I would put in place same-day voter registration. I would get rid of laws that disenfranchise people with criminal histories. Put elections on weekends where people don't have to navigate childcare responsibilities and job responsibilities along with voting.
The fact that more people than ever took part in this election shouldn't hide how bad the system is. Instead, the US should keep tweaking the rules so that it's easier for everyone, no matter their income level or race or location, to have their say.